Good morning everyone, it's Annie with Manor Farms Homestead. So since my last video that I put out, my computer got struck by lightning. So I lost quite a bit of content that I had deleted off of my cameras and put onto the computer. So learned my lesson there. So I lost a couple of videos that I wanted to upload about early seed starting and getting those starts into the ground at the appropriate time. So it looks like that video will just have to be done next year when I do it again. I am going to go around and kind of give you a tour of our spring garden. I'm trying to avoid all the noise associated with my husband cutting the grass, so I'm going from side to side, but he's kind of following me around. Anyway, let's just take a look at what's going on in our spring garden. Keep in mind, a lot of the stuff that's going in for summer type vegetables, I did start those seeds in early February into little pots. I'll link to the video where I did that last year, but I've changed up a few things this year. I changed up my potting mix. I changed up the type of little pots that I was planting those seeds into. I was really trying to get a little bit more root development on my starts. So I talked about all of that in the video, but unfortunately it's lost. So let's just go around and look at everything. So for starters, we're over here in my little herb garden. I love having herbs right outside my door where I can come out and get stuff as needed. This is sage, and this is its third year here. It just keeps seeding back and coming back. It doesn't even really fully die back during the winter. It is a cold hardy plant here in East Central Alabama. Got a little bit of cilantro here in the middle that's really about to go to seed, and we will just let that go to seed so that it will reseed itself and come back. So we've got a whole bunch of oregano here. I did make spaghetti yesterday and used a lot of this fresh oregano. It was really good. Pebbles is following us around. She wants to be in the video. I see you cleaned yourself up a little bit. You looked like you were digging this morning. I washed her yesterday and she got dirty within 24 hours. So we have some mint that's just reseeded itself. It comes back every year. It will die back some during the winter, but it's coming back. A couple little basil plants. These were some that I started in early February that I've stuck in the ground. Hopefully they'll come on through. I planted a few seeds directly sown in there as well. I did have chives over in this part, and I do see a few of them trying to come back now. So we'll see if they come back. And moving on around, we've got our rosemary plant here, and this is starting some of our summer planting down through here in this front bed. So these little bare spots are where I cleared out. I've planted zucchini in 2 spots. Really 2 big zucchini plants is all you need, and you will be overrun with zucchini. Down through this whole area here, each of these little bare spots, I've got cucumbers planted. So I have some up that way that are salad cucumbers. The majority of these are going to be pickling cucumbers. So I made a lot of bread and butter pickles last year, and my kids complained they wanted more dill pickles. So this year we will really focus on the dill pickles. Also back here in the back, I have peppers that I've set out. Now all of these peppers were planted in little planting trays, little planting pots in early February. And that's the video that we're missing, but they are in the ground now. That's who's making all the noise in the background. So all of this area is just peppers. I love this spot for peppers. I probably need to rotate out, but as of this year, we still have peppers over here. This is a little tray of tomatillos. I planted these late compared to the other stuff that I have in the ground now. These I planted in, I believe, early March, because I realized I didn't have enough tomatillos and I really want to make a lot of green salsa this year. Also, I came back and planted these little planters here, probably early March, with a bunch of the pepper seeds that I saved from last year from all of the peppers that I grew. And actually, let me look back. I take that back. This is a pepper tray. This is my tomatillo tray. So we've got more tomatoes here, more tomatoes here. These also were planted in early March. They've done really well because I planted them in these big pots so they have room to grow, and these are just a variety of different tomatoes that I do need to get into the ground. Again, more pepper plants in this tray, or a little planter raised tray. A couple of peppers here. All of these were pepper seeds from what I saved last year. So these are the strawberries. I planted these in late October. The white stuff is wool that I've put around the bottom to kind of keep them lifted up off the ground. And it helps also with grubs. I really haven't had any kind of pest damage on my strawberries. A lot of these got really dry and weren't watered quite as well as they should have been. This year's strawberries just haven't done as well as last year. So I am trying to stay on top of watering them now. They are starting to produce pretty good at this point. Last year I had really good production of my strawberries in mid-March, and we're in mid-April now, so they're just now really putting out. Got a lot of little zinnia flowers in here. I had a bunch of zinnias over here last year, so they went to seed. I'm gonna pull those out and transplant them elsewhere. One little lonely tomatillo plant here. And this little barren area of my beds, it gets really hot over here during the summer. I haven't been scrupulous about keeping the weeds and grass out. What I've done over here, I've actually planted 2 hills of watermelons. So it should just take over this area and kind of provide some ground cover. There's actually some little watermelon plants coming up from last year where I had some hybrid watermelons that produced just really kind of small watermelons, and I left them out here and they just went to seed. So who knows what those will turn out to be, but we'll let them run just to provide some ground cover. Right in this area I have tomatillos. Some of them did get blown over. We had a lot of wind and may not make it, but I do have another tray of them coming on, so if I need to replace any, I will. These are all tomatillos. Again, these were started early February. Now these strawberries in this bed are doing much better. I've made sure that they've been watered really well, and they're just now starting to produce some nice big good eating strawberries. We've got some dill here. These also were started in early February inside. And lots of peppers through here. So last year I had gourds that just took over this area, and I'm finding them popping up here and there, and I'm just pulling them up as they come up. But got it reset up for peppers this year. I had peppers in it the year before. So lots of peppers through here. I'm planning on getting another compost bin and putting it right here in this spot. That way we have time to let that one completely break down, break it open, and then move on to the next one. They have the little doors at the bottom where you can technically take the compost out that is mature, but I find it very difficult to deal with. It's easier if you can just lift the whole thing up, scoop up all of your completed compost, and move it where you need it. So In order to do that, we really need 2 because we're constantly adding to that. We've got a shoe over here that Pebbles has obviously been using as a chew toy. In here I have a couple of fig trees that I need to get planted. I have one blueberry bush that I need to get planted. This one died, but it's because the dog pulled it out and I had to stick it back in there, but it didn't make it. So we'll get these planted shortly. Now we're going to move on out to our patio area. These are asters that I bought last fall. They made it through the winter. They kind of died back, but the roots didn't die. So as spring warmed up, they've come back and started producing little flowers. We do need a lot of blowing out here to get things cleaned up. Now my patio I'm super proud of because I have citrus trees everywhere. So these, I'd have to look at the labels to see what we've got. There we go. This is a mandarin, and I know that this is a dwarf ruby red grapefruit. All of these are dwarf trees and can be raised in big pots like this. I use mineral tubs and I spray painted these. Some of them need a little touching up on the spray paint job, or they got scraped up when Nate brought them out here on the hand truck. I think that's a ruby red grapefruit. This I think is a lemon. Let's see. No, Tangelo. I have found that citrus does wonderfully in our area. You just have to bring it in over winter. This is my key lime plant. It's loaded down with blooms and it produced a lot of little key limes last year. We've got our olive trees that have yet to produce any olives, hopefully this year. The big one. That one actually had some olives on it last year, but it dropped them whenever we transplanted it. So maybe this year we'll get a little crop of olives off of it. I've got 2 avocado trees here. Now these are not the cold hardy avocado trees. They will have to be brought in over winter, but as long as you bring them in, I assume that they will do well here. I did have 2 cold hardy avocados last year or year before that did not make it through the winter despite being brought in. So we're going to try these and see how they do. These will make a big avocado too, not the little small avocado that the cold hardies make. Back here we have a little blueberry plant. So blueberry plant, we need to get some mulch in there. I've got some cardboard just as a weed block, but we'll get some pine straw in there just to make it pretty. What are you barking at? What are you talking about? Pebbles is a little runt puppy from Ruby and Max's litter. So she's like a miniature border collie because she was a runt. We had to raise her inside. She was a bottle baby. All right, more citrus over here. So this one is another Tangelo. This one here is our mandarin from last year. It produced quite a few mandarins for us that were super delicious. Looking forward to that again this year. I'll actually show you that back bed in just a minute. And let's see what this little one is. Dwarf. This is a mandarin as well. This is our lemon tree from last year, loaded down with lemons. So hopefully again we'll have a good crop of those this year. This is our Persian lime. It produced a few limes last year, but last year was its first year in the ground. So hopefully this year we'll get quite a few. Now the Persian lime produces a big lime, not like the key lime. Get out of there, Pebbles. Those are flowers coming up. Come on. And I think this is another lemon, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see. Here's our... Yeah, another Meyer lemon. Or Mayer lemon. Alright, so down through this bed here, this is new since last year. I have 3 dwarf fig trees in here. These are not supposed to get more than about 3 to 4 foot tall. We have tons of zinnias coming up in here because I tasked my little one. Well, she'll be 10 in 2 days. I tasked my little one at planting them, and they're very heavily seeded in here. So we may have to transplant a few of those around to even it up a little bit, but we'll have lots of flowers back here. And there's the other... you're distracting me. You're distracting me. The other fig tree right there, and the last fig tree there. All right, let's move on to the raised bed garden. Pebbles enjoying the garden. All right, so we're gonna start up here at this corner. These are my 2 beds of potatoes. I wanted to plant more potatoes than this, but I just did not have time. I had plenty of seed potatoes. I just didn't have the time to get them into the ground in time for them to make potatoes. Potatoes here in the southeast have a very short season to make, and you can only plant certain varieties. So I have Yukon Gold and Kennebecs in here. They will produce a potato in about 100 days. And that's about all you've got here before it gets hot. And my goodness. So that's about all the time that you have here in the southeast for tuber production. Once your temperatures get over 85 degrees in the soil, you're looking at late May that's going to happen. The tubers will not grow anymore. You will still have green tops on your potatoes, and I've had multiple people comment on my videos that I'm harvesting my potatoes too soon because the tops are still green and I'm supposed to wait till they die back. That is not the case here in the southeast. That may be the case up north where you're growing russet style potatoes. But here, if you leave them in the ground beyond, say, end of May, when the ground temperatures are above 85 degrees, you're no longer making tubers or increasing the size of your tubers, and you're increasing your risk for pest damage. So we have fire ants. They will eat up your potatoes. We have moles, grubs, things like that. They will eat up your potatoes. You got to get them out of the ground even when the tops are still green. Now I expect that these will start blooming here shortly. They've got probably about 6 weeks more before we actually harvest them. I do need to get in here with some mulch and kind of top, instead of healing them, I usually mulch them. This right through here is part of the summer garden. So these are starts that we put in little pots in early February. These are eggplants here. And I do see some damage. Looks like something's eating on them. So we'll probably put some BT dust on them to handle that. I'll probably wait till after the rain comes through. These are tomatoes, again, started in early February. Now we have these set up with the little trellis that we can stake them to as they get big and lanky. I come through here and I break off any of the little branches that may be turning a little yellow that touch the ground, and that helps to prevent disease in your tomatoes. This is a bed that has a lot of hay that's not broken down, so it's really not ready to plant into. It's just going to sit here and kind of compost down some more. I have ordered a mobile chicken coop that will fit over this size bed. So I'm planning on running probably 4 or 5 chickens in this little bed, and they'll help turn this. They'll add some manure to it. They'll get any grubs out of it. It should work out great. Have some cardboard and a box and a another one of these metal raised beds that I got to put together here. All right, now this is more of the spring garden straight through here. We do have strawberry plants in these little black boxes, and I got some huge, beautiful strawberries off of these yesterday. So they've done really well, and I'll show you one box that didn't do really well, and I did identify the culprit of that. We've got broccoli and cauliflower in this bed. We've got our Egyptian walking onions in this bed. This is more broccoli and cauliflower. We did have 2 big giant kale plants that went to seed. You can see the stalks of them. I pulled them out and fed them to the cows. Pebbles, don't eat my plants. You're getting itchy out here in the garden. So they were actually kind of shading out the cauliflower and broccoli in these beds because they were so tall. So these will probably take off and be closer in size to those in that bed down there pretty quickly. Hopefully we'll make some broccoli and cauliflower. Once it starts warming up, these vegetables don't do well. These really do better in the fall where it cools off faster than it warms up. So we'll see how they do. These were all from seeds that I planted in early February inside. In retrospect, I think next year I will plant these early January inside so that I can get them out here probably a month sooner, and that may make a difference in making broccoli and cauliflower before it gets too hot for it to make. As you can see, I do have cilantro growing all over my garden. I let it go to seed, it pops up. I have fresh cilantro most of the time. It doesn't like hot weather, but it will come back during the summer. It just bolts really quickly. But as you can see, the pollinators love this. Where did that bee go? I just saw one on there. But this is some of the early flowers that the pollinators enjoy. In this bed, we've got spinach in the back. I think these are a couple of cabbage plants. Over here we have lettuce. I did pick a good amount of this yesterday. We made an awesome salad with our lettuce, our strawberries, and we put some walnuts and some of our cheese, balsamic vinaigrette over it. It was really amazing. Oh, we had a little bacon with it too. These little plants here, let's talk about these. These are kiwis, baby kiwis. These 2 here in the front are females. I believe this one big one here is a male, and these other 3 small ones are females. So hopefully they'll go ahead and take off and run up these trellises. I'm going to show you the other ones that are older that have gone up the trellis. Very proud of my carrot patch here, and this was one of the videos that I made that was completed, and then my computer got hit by lightning. I do have most of the footage to recreate this video on planting carrots, but I have lost part of it that I had deleted off of the particular camera I'm using now to make space. So it will lack some of the different angles that I did use in that video, but I do have the bulk of that material, and I'll go ahead and put it together and get it out. So the carrots are doing wonderfully, and I really want to share with you what I did getting them planted and getting them to this point. So I have all of my little feed mineral tubs that I fill up with dirt and grow stuff in down through the center. Let's walk down through here. These are all rutabagas, and they're about ready to be harvested. That one's kind of small, but quite a few of them are ready to be harvested. I've got a couple of buckets just of compost here. This is a lot of the stuff that I pulled out of the garden last season and just threw it in these buckets to break down over winter. It probably needs a good turning, but we'll use these buckets in the near future for summer planting. More rutabagas and also cilantro growing up in there. Also, same thing, cilantro with a rutabaga in there. These are some of the bigger ones, so that rutabaga is pretty close to being ready to harvest. That one is definitely ready to harvest. So we're planning on having some rutabagas and collard greens this weekend. All right, over here we have 2 more little kiwi plants. This one doesn't look like it's doing wonderfully. Hopefully it'll improve. Sometimes you lose them when they're small like that. Lots of cilantro. Lots of cilantro. It's really pretty when it seeds out like this or flowers out like this. These flowers will dry up and turn into the little seed pods, and they'll just go everywhere here in the garden, which is what I like. I like having cilantro everywhere because I love cilantro. I know there's a lot of people that hate cilantro, but I love cilantro. More rutabagas. And this is a male kiwi plant right here. This is its 3rd year. We transplanted it over winter while it was dormant because it was in a pot and it was very root bound. And we felt that they would do better to be out here in the ground with big trellises to run up. This is a female kiwi plant. She is also 3 years old. I don't know if we'll get any kiwi this year. Maybe. We'll have to see if we end up seeing any blooms. Right now it's just budding out and taking over. We have this is a 2-year-old kiwi plant that we transplanted also when it was dormant. It's not doing quite as well. A lot of it had seemingly died back. I do see live stuff coming up here at the top, so hopefully it'll do okay. We had another 2-year-old over here that the dogs dug up and ate. I'm not sure why, but they did. That's why we've got 2 little babies down there right now, and hopefully they'll do okay. All right, we're gonna walk back up here so we can come back down. All right, more carrots. This also is in the carrot video that I will get put together. We've got lots of collard greens through here. I need to get these harvested. They're ready to eat. Underneath all of this cilantro here in this bed is elephant garlic. Elephant garlic doesn't mind a little shade, so hopefully it won't die back from all that cilantro kind of overtaking it. In here we have soft neck garlic and some more elephant garlic down here. They haven't done as well this year. They do have really another 6 weeks to grow before harvesting, but next year I will probably, they come back on their own in the same beds, but I may move them to another bed just to kind of change up and rotate where my crops are. In this bed I've got a few little eggplants that were more than what I needed over in that other bed, so I stuck them over here. And then back here, these are Brussels sprouts. So hopefully, again, they'll make before it gets too hot. Pebbles, out of there. Come on. A couple of new beds right down through here. A lot of this really needs to compost down more. I think I could throw a few bags of some potting soil garden mix onto these and go ahead and use them, which is probably the plan because I've got a lot of stuff that I need to plant and I don't really have enough room for it. In these 2 beds, these are the beds that we have had potatoes, sweet potatoes and beans in over the last couple of years. So the last thing planted in them were beans. So that puts nitrogen back in the soil. Also, these were topped off heavily with chicken manure that has composted down for probably about 4 to 5 months at this point. So safe to plant into. These are tomatoes that again were seeded into little pots in early February. I don't remember the varieties that I planted. I did plant a few yellow ones, not a lot, but I was trying to stick with the beef heart type ones, which have kind of become my favorite, and then the paste tomatoes, good for canning and making sauces. So we have 2 of these beds down through here, and again, we have the center trellis where we can stake these as they grow to keep them from falling over. Here's the little bed that I was talking about earlier where my strawberries just seemed to die. And I had no idea what went wrong in this bed until I saw that Star, one of our little border collie puppies, was sleeping in this bed. So she just kind of destroyed my strawberries. All right, moving on. I have all of these pots here. This is what we had our kiwi plants in. And since they outgrew them and we put them in the ground, I just have these 4 pots here with nothing going on in them. So I'm actually going to plant my turmeric and ginger into these pots. I think they'll do well there. I'm going to come around through the gate to show you this tomato bed. All right, since last year, we've actually bricked up this bed. We just had bricks kind of strung around it last year. We've done the same thing in this bed over here. All right, so yesterday I managed to get out here and put in 1.5 rows of tomatoes, and I was just pretty much beat. I'd worked hard all day and I had no more go in me. So here's my tray of tomatoes. The goal is to get those in the ground after I'm done with these videos. I'm not sure I have enough room in this particular bed to get all of them in here. We will see how far we get with them. My goal for this bed over here was some of those tomatillos as they mature and some of the peppers as they mature. However, if I don't have enough room for all of my tomatoes, this will probably end up being a tomato bed, and I highly foresee that in the future. One other thing, while I'm over here, I'm just going to show you that I think is so pretty. These are junipers. They're, I think, called skyrocket junipers. And we put them here kind of as a wind block and to ultimately provide some shade over here on our dog runs to the left. But they've really taken off. Every year I put a little bit of our potash, the wood ash from our wood stove around them, fertilize them really well this spring, and they're just bright green now and look like they're doing really well. Just an ornamental piece here on the farm. All right, now I'm going to show you something that I am super proud of, and that is my onion garden. Oh my gosh. So last year I lost most of my onions because we got some really cold weather for several days, and it got down to 11 degrees and really didn't warm up for about 3 or 4 days, and pretty much all of my onions died. I harvested a few. The year before that I did really well with onions, so it was just really disheartening last year to lose all those onions. This year, as you can see, they are already starting to make bulbs because the daylight is getting a little bit longer I do need to get in here and weed out a little bit. I've done it once, but it does need a little weeding. I have stayed on top of my onions with regard to spraying them for fungal disease every 2 weeks. That's imperative to growing onions that will store. If you get fungal disease in your onions, almost as fast as you pick them, they'll start rotting. So you want good storage onions, you've got to prevent fungal disease. So every 2 weeks, you have to spray your onions. I've used a combination of copper. I always mix it with a little soap. And then there's another biologic that I use that's safe for organic gardening. You see they're starting to bulb some down here as well. Hi, girls. That's who's making all this racket. And I've also stayed on fertilizing them because onions are really heavy feeders. You want the biggest green tops possible because that's going to equate to a bigger bulb. So I've fertilized these about 3 times at this point. I do have a few that have bolted. These will not be good for storage. Now these right here actually were some that I personally planted back in July of last year, and I only had a few that made it, but that's these that have bolted right here. And that's not completely surprising. These are intermittent day onions, so our weather probably has just not been conducive for them. Alright, I'm back. My battery went dead and I had to take a little break. So all of these onions that have gone to seed, you can use them as green onions, but they're not gonna store at all. So of the actual onions in here, minus these that I planted from seed last July, who now think it's a new season and have gone to seed, I've only seen two others that have bolted. This one, again, I'm not sure if this was one of the ones that I had planted. And it's important to have short day onions in the area we're at. These were intermittent day onions, so it's hit or miss whether they'll make a bulb or just bolt. Any of your long day onions, they'll just bolt. They'll never make a bulb in this area. We don't get enough sunlight length of day compared to up north. So the only other one that I've seen that bolted was this one right here. But in general, all of my green tops look great. They're not diseased. They're much larger than the onions that I have grown in the past. You girls are so noisy. Knock it off. Yeah, knock it off. My little on sale pullets. That's a whole nother topic on when to get pullets, but I might share that in a chicken video when you can get really cheap pullets from a particular hatchery. Anyway, so the green tops look great. That's due to me keeping them fertilized. Hi, little froggy. You keeping the bugs out of here for me? Keeping the bugs out of here for me? All right. So, look at these bulbs already. These onions really have another 4 to 6 weeks to grow. And look at that bulb. I mean, that is a great size. That onion's going to be huge once it's ready. Now, unlike the potatoes, these onion tops will start dying back when they're ready to harvest. And then I'll do a video when I harvest these so I can show you how I cure them so that they keep. Short day onions don't tend to keep quite as long as long day onions, but all of the varieties that I got will store 3 to 4 months, which is plenty for me because I use a lot during the summer when I'm canning tomatoes, salsa, things like that. So I use a lot of them. And then the other ones I found keep really well just in my garage in kind of a vented wooden box that my dad built me. This particular row of onions is a red variety. And I don't remember. I think it's Red Bell or Southern Red. I don't remember. It's definitely not Red Creole. I did grow Red Creole the first year I grew onions, and I would say 90% of those bolted. So far, none of these have bolted, and they are bulbing. Bring you down close over here so you can see some of these bulbs that are coming in. So those are all of the red onions. These are white Texas Early. They're similar to a Vidalia onion. In fact, if they were grown in Vidalia, Georgia, they would be Vidalia onions. In this row, we have these yellow onions. These are Texas Legends. These will get to be the biggest of all of them. And they store really well. So super excited about harvesting these. Overall, I couldn't be more pleased with my onion endeavor this year. One other thing that I wanted to share with you is this whole plot here. This is where I typically plant my corn. Unfortunately, we found out at the last minute that my tiller was broke. So it's in the shop to be fixed. Actually, it's with my dad being fixed because the shop said they couldn't fix it, and my dad's like, I can fix it. So we'll see how that goes. We will probably buy a backup tiller in the next few days and hopefully get this area tilled up. It's getting a little bit late for corn, but we're going to give it a go. If we don't get a backup tiller and my dad does not get my tiller fixed, I'm probably just going to come in here and plant watermelons. That's a lot of chicken manure and rabbit manure that you see spread all over the place. But this area definitely needs to be tilled up. And if not, I can probably just plant several mounds of probably watermelons and cantaloupes. Loki! Hi, Loki! This is our usually very noisy boy whenever we're doing videos. He's a good boy. Alright, so that is it on our spring impending summer garden video.